picture yourself, right? You're doing like 75 miles an hour down I-285.
Oh, yeah, just cruising.
Exactly. The air conditioning's blasting, you're streaming a deep dive, and the ride has that, that signature whisper, quiet glide of a modern EV.
Right, the perfect electric vehicle experience.
Until it isn't, because then you glance down at the center console, and the battery percentage indicator, it just flips from this reassuring green to a harsh blinking red.
Uh-oh. That is, yeah, that's not what you want to see.
No, it's terrifying. You have maybe 12 miles of range left,
Uh-huh.
and you check the navigation screen, and it shows the nearest public fast charger is 14 miles away.
So you're literally mathematically out of luck.
Right, and just like that, the quiet luxury of the cabin is completely drowned out by the pounding of your own heart.
Yeah.
Because you aren't out of gas, you're just out of reach.
Yeah, and you're about to become a very heavy, very expensive obstacle on one of the busiest highways in the country.
Which is just a nightmare. And that's exactly what we're looking at today. Welcome to today's deep dive, where we're going to tear apart this exact friction point.
It's a profound feeling of helplessness, really, because the vehicle is functioning perfectly.
Right. The engineering is totally flawless.
Exactly. The engineering is flawless, but the environment around the vehicle has failed you. That sinking feeling is what the industry quietly calls charger anxiety.
Charger anxiety is such a perfect term for it.
It is. And it's basically the shadow hanging over this entire EV transition because, we're placing 21st century vehicles onto a mid-20th century electrical grid.
And just hoping the gaps don't swallow us whole.
Yeah, exactly. Which they often do.
So to figure this out, we're pulling insights from a couple of really fascinating sources today. We've got the operational web copy from Atlanta Mobile EV Charging.
Oh, yeah. Really detailed stuff in there.
Super detailed. And we're also looking at a transcript from the E-Rescue Network discussing their recent national expansion.
Which is really changing the game.
It totally is, because today's mission for this deep dive is to explore what happens when you stop trying to drag a dead vehicle to a broken power grid.
Right, and instead, you force the power to come to you.
Yes, it's a complete operational pivot.
It really challenges a century of automotive habit, if you think about it. I mean, since the invention of the internal combustion engine, the whole social contract of driving has been that the vehicle travels to the fuel.
Right. You find a gas station, you pull in.
Exactly. But electricity doesn't inherently require a centralized station like that.
It's everywhere. Or it should be.
Right. The materials we're analyzing today really suggest that treating electric charging like liquid fueling is just, well, a fundamental logistical error.
A huge error.
Mhm.
And to understand why that error is so incredibly painful for drivers, we need to look at the environment where it causes the most damage, right?
Yeah, the sprawling megacity.
So let's focus on the geography of this problem.
Yeah.
Because the sources specifically highlight the Atlanta metropolitan area as like the ultimate crucible for charger anxiety.
Oh, absolutely. Atlanta is the perfect storm for this.
Right, because if you look at a satellite map of Atlanta, it isn't really a city in the traditional dense sense. It's more of an expansive web.
Yeah, the service area we're looking at in these documents covers a massive 45-mile radius from the urban core.
Which is huge. You're dealing with places like Marietta, Alpharetta, Conyers, Douglasville.
And it's an ecosystem of massive interstate loops mixed with dense suburban sprawl.
And then these exurbs that stretch out into heavily wooded, winding roads where there's just nothing around.
Right. And what's fascinating here is that the topology of a city like Atlanta creates a very specific kind of infrastructure mirage.
An infrastructure mirage?
Yeah.
I like that. What do you mean by that?
Well, if you pull up an app that maps public EV chargers, the downtown core looks incredibly well served.
Oh, yeah. It's just a sea of little green pins on the map.
Exactly. There's a cluster of pins around high-end retail centers, major corporate office parks, affluent residential towers.
So it looks fine. It gives you the illusion of a robust safety net.
But a metro area's economic lifeblood isn't just its dense core. It's the connective tissue.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because that connective tissue is where people actually live and drive.
Right. It's the 80-mile round-trip commute from a subdivision in Kennesaw to an office in Sandy Springs, or delivery routes connecting warehouses in Lithonia to retail spaces in Buckhead.
And out on those arteries, the map gets terrifyingly sparse.
It really does.
Relying on those concentrated public chargers in a sprawling city like Atlanta,
Yeah.
it's like having a smartphone at 1% battery. but the only wall outlets are in a completely different neighborhood.
That is a perfect analogy
Yeah.
because the public chargers that do exist outside the core are often, tucked behind a random hotel.
Or in the dark back corner of a big box store parking lot.
Yeah, you aren't just pulling over to the side of the road. You have to navigate off the highway, sit through 2 stoplights, and hunt for a specific parking stall.
And if you misjudge your range, or, I don't know, a sudden drop in temperature saps your battery efficiency by 20%.
Which happens all the time in winter.
Exactly. That connective tissue becomes a trap.
Furthermore, proximity on a map does not equal availability in reality.
Oh, man. Don't even get me started on broken chargers.
Right. The infrastructure mirage isn't just about geographic distance, it's about the physical state of the hardware.
The uptime reliability of public charging networks outside of a few, proprietary ecosystems is notoriously poor.
It's awful. You might have enough battery to reach a charger in a suburban parking lot, but when you arrive, the screen is shattered.
Or the payment module is offline because of a cellular network timeout.
Or the heavy liquid-cooled cable has literally been vandalized. We see that constantly.
Or, equally frustrating, the charger works perfectly fine, but there's a line of 4 cars waiting for a single dispenser.
Precisely. The power exists in the city, technically, but it is functionally inaccessible.
So you've driven your vehicle to the fuel source. You've fulfilled your end of that century-old social contract we talked about.
And the infrastructure just refuses to deliver.
And at that point, the vehicle's protective systems have to take over, right?
Yeah. To prevent irreversible chemical degradation to the lithium-ion cells, the battery management system will deliberately shut down the drivetrain.
It just cuts the power.
It has to. And suddenly you are immobilized.
Which means we have to talk about what happens next. The screen goes black, the car stops, you're sitting on the shoulder of a busy highway.
It's incredibly stressful.
Totally. And
Yep.
the conventional wisdom, like the reflex that's burned into our brains since we got our driver's licenses, is to just call a tow truck.
Right, call for a tow.
But looking through these sources, applying the traditional towing model to a modern electric vehicle feels completely irrational.
It's a massive misallocation of resources in physics, honestly. Let's just break down the mechanics of a traditional roadside rescue.
Okay, lay it out for us.
First, consider the timeline. In a sprawling, heavily trafficked environment like the Atlanta Metro, a standard tow truck dispatch is going to run anywhere from 1 to 3 hours.
1 to 3 hours. And sitting for 3 hours on the shoulder of I-285 is not just an inconvenience, it is a severe physical hazard.
Oh, absolutely.
You have thousands of pounds of steel moving past your door at highway speeds.
The physical danger is acute, but the mechanical danger to the vehicle is equally troubling because you cannot simply lift the front wheels of an EV and drag it down the highway.
Right, because the motors are physically coupled to the wheels,
Right.
And dragging them generates a massive amount of unmanaged electrical current.
That is part of it, yes. The regenerative braking system would essentially turn the motors into uncontrolled generator.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it pushes unregulated voltage back into a battery system that is completely shut down. It can fry the electronics.
You absolutely have to use a flatbed?
Exactly. But even beyond that, just getting a dead EV ready to be towed is a complex operation.
Why is it so complicated if it's already dead?
Because the entire architecture of the car relies on a traditional 12-volt accessory battery to manage the high-voltage pack's contactors.
Oh, like a regular car battery.
Right. And when the main high-voltage battery dies, it stops charging that 12-volt battery. So eventually the 12-volt dies too.
Which means the computers go completely dark. You can't even, release the electronic parking brake.
Exactly. The tow operator often has to manually jump the 12-volt system with a jump pack just to wake up the central computer enough to engage tow mode or release the parking brake.
And if they can't do that,
Then they are dragging locked tires across asphalt. It's brutal. And because the vehicle must be transported on a flatbed, they have to winch it up an incline.
and EVs are incredibly heavy, right?
Yes, often 1,000 pounds heavier than an internal combustion equivalent. And their center of gravity is entirely in the floorboard where the battery pack sits.
So the whole structural geometry is different.
Completely different. If a tow operator attaches a winch hook to the wrong subframe component or drags the undercarriage across the steep lip of the flatbed, they can easily breach the battery casing.
Oh, man.
Or they crush the thermal management lines running underneath the car, which is catastrophic damage.
I am continually struck by the fundamental absurdity of this entire process.
It really is absurd when you step back and look at it.
Right. We're talking about utilizing a massive diesel-burning commercial vehicle. We are paying for highly specialized mechanical labor.
Hmm.
We are risking severe structural damage to the car, and we are moving a 4,000-pound object across the city.
And why? For a lack of electrons.
Exactly. I keep coming back to this analogy. It feels like the exact equivalent of hiring a professional moving company with a box truck and 4 guys to carefully wrap your dead laptop in moving blankets, drive it across town to a coffee shop, plug it into the wall, and then drive away.
That's hilarious, but it's completely accurate. It highlights how locked into old paradigms we are. We are trying to solve an electrical deficit with a massive kinetic intervention.
Yes, a kinetic intervention. And the punchline of this incredibly stressful, expensive intervention is that the tow truck doesn't even take you to your final destination.
No, of course not. They drop you off at a public charger.
Right. You've spent 3 hours waiting on the side of a dangerous highway. You have paid upward of $300 or $400 just for the hookup and transport,
And your reward is being deposited at a public charging stall.
where you now have to sit and wait another 45 minutes for the car to actually absorb the energy. And, that assumes the charger the tow truck driver dumped you at is actually functioning.
Which, as we've discussed, is a coin toss. It's a compounding cascade of failure.
It's madness.
And this is exactly why the transcript from the EE Rescue Network frames their service not just as a roadside assistance option, but as a necessary evolution of automotive logistics.
A total paradigm shift.
Right. Their model, which is executed in the Atlanta region by Atlanta Mobile EV Charging, eliminates the kinetic intervention entirely. It operates on a principle of electrical triage.
Electrical triage. So instead of moving the multi-ton vehicle to the powerhouse,
You dispatch a highly concentrated mobile power source directly to the vehicle.
it's the power bank approach. You make the call, and a technician arrives at your exact GPS coordinates.
Exactly.
And the sources note a rapid response time, generally 30 to 45 minutes in the Atlanta area. You just stay inside your vehicle.
Safe and sound.
The operator pulls up, extends a cable, and pushes the electrons directly into your battery right there on the shoulder of the highway.
It immediately neutralizes the geographic trap.
Yeah.
The location of the broken public infrastructure no longer matters because the infrastructure is dynamic. It comes to you.
But this introduces a massive psychological hurdle, doesn't it?
Oh, definitely.
Because if I'm an EV owner, I know that my car is essentially a highly sensitive $70,000 computer managing a volatile chemical reaction.
Yes.
I am very particular about what I plug it into. The idea of plugging my expensive vehicle into a portable machine on the side of a highway immediately triggers warranty anxieties.
Oh, people are terrified of voiding their warranties.
Right, people hear mobile power, and they picture a dirty, rattling, smoke-belching construction generator strapped to the back of a pickup truck.
Which would be terrible for the car.
Exactly. So how is this technology actually interacting with the car? Is it actually safe?
That is the most critical technical barrier to understand, because the fear of dirty power is highly justified in the world of sensitive electronics.
So what are they using?
The network utilizes a purpose-built piece of hardware called the Evroad Hero RH9K mobile charging unit.
The RH9K.
Right. It is not a repurposed construction generator. It is a highly specialized, self-contained microgrid.
I want to dig into the specs on this because the physics of how this machine protects the car's onboard computer is fascinating.
It really is.
So the materials state the RH9K delivers 9 kilowatts of continuous power with an 11 kilowatt peak output.
Which, for context, is essentially a high-end level 2 residential charger.
So it's not a slow trickle. It will push substantial range into a battery very quickly.
Exactly. And it operates off a highly efficient 6.1-gallon fuel tank.
Which gives the operator the capacity to perform 5 to 10 separate rescue sessions before needing to refuel.
Right. But the absolute most vital specification mentioned in the transcript, the thing that makes this safe, is the THD.
Total harmonic distortion.
Yes. The unit operates with a THD of under 3%.
Under 2%, okay.
And to understand why that number is the entire bedrock of this service's safety profile, we have to look at how electricity actually moves into an electric vehicle.
Walk us through the electrical journey. When the operator plugs the RH9K into the car, what is actually happening on a microscopic level?
Okay, so in a standard electrical grid, alternating current AC power flows in a perfectly smooth, undulating curve.
Like a wave.
Exactly. This is known as a pure sine wave. The voltage rises to a peak, smoothly drops to zero, drops to a negative valley, and rises back again 60 times a second.
Right.
Now, the onboard charger inside your electric vehicle is essentially an incredibly sophisticated rectifier.
Okay, and its job is to...
Its sole job is to take that smooth, undulating AC wave and convert it into the flat, continuous, direct current DC power that the battery cells actually require to store energy.
Got it. So it essentially irons the wave flat.
That's a great way to put it. Yes, it irons the wave flat. And inside that onboard charger are components called insulated gate bipolar transistors, or IGBTs.
Okay, IGBTs.
These are heavy-duty switching components that fire thousands of times a second to manage the conversion. And they are engineered to expect that smooth, predictable sine wave.
Because they need to know exactly when to switch.
Right. But cheap portable generators do not produce a smooth wave. They produce what is called a modified sine wave, or a highly distorted wave.
So it's messy.
Very messy. Instead of a smooth curve, the electrical output looks like a jagged, erratic staircase. It is full of spikes, noise, and erratic voltage drops.
And that jaggedness is the harmonic distortion.
Precisely.
So what happens when that jagged, distorted wave hits the car's internal components, like if you just plugged into a cheap generator?
It creates absolute chaos within the onboard charger.
Right.
Because the switching transistors are trying to time their firing based on a smooth curve. When they are hit with erratic voltage spikes from dirty power, they fire at the wrong times. This creates microscopic electrical arcsing.
Which sounds bad.
It's very bad. The capacitors inside the inverter are forced to work exponentially harder to filter out the noise, and this massive inefficiency manifests as heat.
Thermal runaway.
Exactly. The components overheat. The vehicle's telemetry systems detect the erratic voltage, the thermal spikes, and the high harmonic distortion.
So the car's brain realizes it's under attack, basically.
Yes. The computer immediately recognizes that the power source is hostile and severs the connection to protect the battery. The car simply refuses to charge.
Which is incredibly frustrating if you're stranded.
But that's the best case scenario. In older or less sophisticated models, the dirty power actually overwhelms the filtering capacitors, physically degrading or destroying the onboard charger.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which is a catastrophic multi-thousand-dollar repair that is absolutely not covered by the manufacturer's warranty.
Because you plugged it into the wrong thing. But the Ev-Road Hero RH9K bypasses this entirely because of that sub 3% THD rating.
It achieves that through a professional-grade inverter integrated directly into the mobile unit.
So it's fixing the power before it even gets to the car.
Exactly. The alternator generates the raw power, but before it ever travels down the charging cable, the internal inverter aggressively filters and reshapes the electricity.
It smooths out every spike and fills in every valley.
Right. By the time the power reaches the J1772 connector, it is a pristine, pure sine wave.
So from the perspective of the car's central computer, there's absolutely no difference between being plugged into the RH9K on the shoulder of a highway and being plugged into a premium, hardwired charging station in a luxury garage.
None whatsoever. The telemetry sees clean, stable, predictable voltage. It opens the contactors, accepts the charge, and the warranty remains completely intact. The electrical environment is perfectly sterile.
It's honestly a triumph of mobile engineering.
It really is.
And here's where it gets really interesting, because that engineering extends beyond just the electrical output. It completely redefines the acoustic and physical experience of the rescue.
Right, the sensory details matter here.
Because we talked about the psychological dread of the loud, rattling generator. But the materials say the RH9K operates at just 64 decibels at a distance of 23 feet.
Which is remarkably quiet. For auditory context, a normal human conversation in a quiet room hovers around 60 decibels.
Wow.
And city traffic, just heard from inside a car, is often 70 or 80 decibels.
So the unit is effectively whispering compared to the highway around it.
Exactly.
You could be sitting in the driver's seat, making a phone call to your office to say you're running late or just listening to music, and you would barely register the acoustic signature of the machine outside.
You definitely don't have to shout over it. It is a civilized, composed interaction.
Furthermore, the physical logistics are really dialed in. The unit utilizes a 25-foot charging cord.
And that length is not arbitrary. It is a very specific safety mitigation.
Right, because when a car dies, you rarely get to execute a perfect parallel park on the shoulder.
Oh, almost never.
You might be nose deep into a muddy ditch. Or angled awkwardly against a concrete median.
Right.
If the mobile charger only had, like, a standard 8-foot cord, the operator would have to maneuver their truck dangerously close to your stranded vehicle.
Potentially blocking multiple lanes of traffic.
Or risking a collision just to make the connection. But a 25-foot reach means the rescue vehicle can remain safely parked.
They can utilize their strobe lights to block the lane defensively.
Exactly. While the technician easily walks the cable to the charging port, regardless of how the vehicle is situated.
It really demonstrates that the technology was developed specifically for the realities of roadside triage, not just general power generation. The physical mechanics work. The electrical quality is flawless.
But a brilliant piece of hardware is utterly useless if the logistical network deploying it is flawed,
Very true.
which requires an examination of how e-rescue structures its operations, particularly in a complex environment like Atlanta.
Right, because logistics make or break this entire concept.
So the business model outlined in the sources is actually a masterclass in decentralized logistics. E-Rescue operates as the national umbrella.
Yeah, they provide the centralized dispatch software, the brand consistency, the technical training, and of course, the standardized Evroad Hero equipment.
And they have a really growing footprint. The transcript mentions they're operating in Sacramento, Portland, the Seattle-Tacoma region, Vancouver, Washington, and now this massive push into Atlanta.
But they're not trying to micromanage the streets of Georgia from a boardroom in another state,
Right. They utilize a vendor-partner model.
which is brilliant.
So the actual execution, the trucks on the road, the technicians extending the cables, is handled by local professionals. In this market, it's a company called Electric Vehicle Serviceability.
Operating under the consumer-facing brand of Atlanta Mobile EV Charging.
Exactly. So I'm curious about your take on this. Why is that local integration so vital? Why couldn't a national company just hire a fleet of drivers directly and manage them via GPS?
Well, because GPS routing cannot account for the localized nuances of municipal infrastructure and traffic culture. Emergency logistics is a hyperlocal discipline.
Give me an example.
Okay, say a driver is stranded on the sprawling interchanges of Spaghetti Junction during a Friday afternoon downpour.
Which is a nightmare scenario.
A centralized dispatch algorithm in California might direct the rescue truck down a route that local drivers know has been crippled by construction for 3 months.
Ah, right. The map says it's faster, but reality says it's a parking lot.
Exactly. A local operator understands the seasonal weather impacts, the unmapped shortcuts, and the specific hazards of regional highways.
So by partnering with Electric Vehicle Serviceability, the network ensures that the individuals responding to the crisis possess intrinsic geographic intuition.
It marries national technological scale with hyperlocal navigational expertise.
That makes total sense. And this philosophy of clear, upfront communication extends directly into their pricing structure.
Which is a huge relief for consumers.
Because anyone who has ever been towed knows the inherent financial terror of the interaction. You are vulnerable, you are stuck, and the pricing is deliberately opaque.
No, it's always a surprise at the end.
You get a baseline quote over the phone, but by the time your car is offloaded, you are hit with hookup fees, mileage surcharges, heavy-duty vehicle premiums, storage fees.
A $150 phone, quote, routinely morphs into a $400 invoice.
And the operator is holding your car hostage until you swipe your card.
It is an adversarial transaction by nature.
Exactly. But Atlanta Mobile EV Charging approaches the transaction entirely differently. The web copy lays out 3 transparent pricing tiers based entirely on the severity of the intervention required.
The psychology here is brilliant because it gives agency back to the driver.
So let's break down the tiers. The first tier is the Quick Boot. It's a flat $199,
And that provides a 30-minute charging session.
which equates to roughly 30 to 40 miles of range.
Now, the e-rescue transcript indicates that this entry-level tier successfully resolves the vast majority of consumer dispatches.
Really? Just 30 miles is enough.
From a triage perspective, yes. 30 miles is a massive operational envelope.
I guess that makes sense. It's the difference between being stranded on the highway and successfully navigating to a reliable public charger, or simply driving the rest of the way home to your own garage.
Right. You don't need a 100% battery to escape the crisis. You just need enough runway to reach safety.
So for $199, you completely bypass the multi-hour wait, the physical risks of the flatbed, and the stress of a tow.
You pay a known quantity, you wait half an hour in climate-controlled comfort, and you drive away under your own power.
But the network recognizes that not all geographical traps are created equal, right?
Right. So the second tier is the standard charge.
And this is priced at $329. providing a 60-minute charging session.
which pushes approximately 80 to 100 miles of range into the vehicle.
So this is a scenario where you haven't just misjudged your commute home. You are in the middle of a massive logistical day.
Like if you're a real estate agent driving clients all over the metro area.
Or you're running critical errands across multiple counties. You don't want to just limp home and abandon your day.
The standard charge gives you enough operational capacity to actually finish your agenda without having to hunt for a public charger afterward.
And then for maximum requirement, there is the extended charge.
Yes, this is $429 for a 90-minute session, delivering roughly 130 to 160 miles of range.
Who usually needs this one?
This is designed for significant travel, perhaps a driver who is passing entirely through the state and got caught in a charging dead zone.
Or, crucially, for commercial applications requiring substantial energy transfer.
Exactly.
And the transparency is ironclad. The sources explicitly state the only two variables that could alter these flat rates.
Just two.
Right. If you require emergency rescue between the hours of 6 p.m. and 6:12 a.m., there is a $50 after-hours fee.
Which is totally standard for emergency services.
And if you are stranded outside their standard 25-mile operational radius, say you are deeply off the grid past Conyers, there's a $2 per mile extended travel fee.
But that's it. Every single cost is known before the truck even shifts into drive.
It removes the financial anxiety from the equation, allowing the driver to focus purely on the logistical solution.
This model is undeniably transformative for the individual commuter. But, and this is where it gets really exciting, if we expand our aperture and look at the broader macroeconomic landscape, we uncover a sector where charger anxiety isn't just an inconvenience.
Right, it's a crippling barrier to industrial progress.
Yes.
This is where the narrative shifts from a fascinating consumer service to a massive, disruptive logistical solution. We have to examine the B2B angle.
The electrification of commercial fleets.
Right, because when the general public talks about EVs, the mental image is usually a family navigating a road trip in a Tesla or a commuter in a Ford Mustang Mach.
But the real volumetric revolution in the automotive industry is happening in the commercial sector.
And the scale is staggering. If we connect this to the bigger picture, we are talking about last-mile delivery fleets for global e-commerce giants.
We are talking about municipal utility vehicles.
Sprawling rental car fleets consolidated around hubs like Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport.
And massive corporate vehicle pools. The financial mandate for these corporations to transition from internal combustion engines to electric vehicles is just overwhelming.
Because the unit economics of an EV fleet are undeniably superior over a 10-year life cycle.
Oh, it's not even close.
The cost per mile for electricity is a fraction of the cost of commercial diesel.
And the maintenance costs plummet because you are eliminating oil changes, transmission fluid swaps, spark plugs, and literally thousands of moving mechanical parts.
An EV drivetrain is remarkably simple compared to a diesel engine. Fleet managers are desperate to capture these operational savings.
The desire is absolutely there. The capital to purchase the vehicles is available.
But as these corporations attempt to execute the transition, they are slamming headfirst into a massive invisible wall.
The bottleneck isn't the availability of the vehicles. It is the brutal reality of commercial charging infrastructure.
I think people fundamentally misunderstand what it takes to charge a fleet of 50 delivery vans. They imagine buying 50 chargers from a hardware store, bolting them to a wall, and plugging them in.
Oh, if only it were that simple. The reality is an infrastructural nightmare.
Why is it so hard?
Because a commercial fleet requires high voltage, level 2, or DC fast charging architecture to ensure the vehicles are fully replenished during their downtime. You cannot run a commercial operation on 110-volt wall outlets.
It would take days to charge a van.
Exactly. So when a fleet manager decides to install this infrastructure, they immediately transition from being a logistics professional to being a commercial real estate developer.
Which they are not equipped for. Break down that timeline, because this is where the traditional model completely collapses for businesses. What does it actually take to build a fleet depot charging station?
Okay, first, you have the site survey and the utility negotiation. The local power substation may not even have the capacity to deliver the massive megawatt draw required by 50 commercial chargers firing simultaneously.
So the power company pushes back.
Right. The utility company may require the installation of new, dedicated transformers, which currently suffer from massive global supply chain backlogs.
So you could be waiting 18 months just for the transformer to arrive.
Easily. Then you enter the municipal permitting phase. You are dealing with city council zoning, environmental impact assessments, commercial electrical
It's
inspections.
just red tape on top of red tape.
And once you finally secure the permits, the physical destruction of the property begins. You have to tear up hundreds of yards of concrete parking lot.
You literally have to trench through dirt and rock to lay massive conduits.
Yes, you pour new concrete, you install the bollards and the pedestals, you wire the proprietary networking software.
You are describing a multi-million-dollar, multi-year civil engineering project.
It is a massive capital expenditure, or CapEx. The upfront financial burden is astronomical. And here's the real kicker. This assumes the corporation